Welcome back. When a letter from the Army Chief's office to the Prime Minister finds its way into the public space, angry questions are raised about ethics, about the limits of rights of journalists in India. In America, there are laws that protected Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein from exposing Deep Throat as their source during Watergate. Laws that allow journalists to do their job without the fear of prosecution and persecution. But in India, when a secret gets leaked, people in power get angry, they get distracted, and the matter at hand gets sidelined. So today we are asking you, is it time for India to follow America's footsteps? Is it time to make laws that protect the source? Why reveal a source? Here's a quick report before we jump into News Hour Debate number 2.
Army Chief General V.K. Singh's letter to the Prime Minister creating a huge storm just a few days back, exposing the chinks in the armour of the Indian Army. Caught completely off guard, the under-fire government was quick to order a probe into the leak of the confidential letter, instead of perhaps addressing concerns raised by the Army Chief.
Whoever leaked this letter, that act is anti-national. We have requested the IB to inquire about that.
The government perhaps caught unawares shooting the messenger, raising serious questions over whether a journalist should disclose his or her source. Unlike India, in the US, there is a shield law that protects journalists from being forced to disclose their sources. The law clearly states that a reporter can't be forced to reveal his or her source. And it also provides a privilege to a reporter pursuant to which the reporter can't be forced by subpoena or other court orders to testify on the information. The law had protected the iconic Watergate duo of Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein from disclosing their source Deep Throat, who later turned out to be FBI honcho Mark Felt. But in the recent past, even after making an effort to get immunity under the shield laws, New York Times reporter Judith Miller was jailed for 85 days for refusing to disclose her source in the Plame affair or the CIA leak scandal in 2005. Back home, with the source of the leak being investigated by top intelligence agencies, the last of this controversy is yet to be heard. Bureau Report, Times Now.
Fantastic panel on this debate tonight. We have former IB Director Ajit Doval, former RAW Chief A.K. Verma, former Army Commander Northern Command Lieutenant General B.S. Jaswal. I have very senior journalist Kumi Kapoor joining us, senior journalist author Madhu Trehan joining us. Very happy to have with us managing editor of IBN7, one of India's best-known Hindi television journalists, Ashutosh, with us. Now, I want to begin by asking you, Madhu Trehan, it's strange, a scoop is going to be turned into a crime at this rate. All of last week, they said, where's the leak? Who's done the leak? It's as if the person who leaked the story, who actually has got the best scoop any journalist can get, is going to be turned into some kind of a, journalistic fugitive. Isn't that strange? And this report of the Times of India today actually brought that to the fore.
I think there are two sides to this. One is that lost him.
Yeah, go on, Madhu. Yeah.
One is that you have to look at, of course, what you mentioned, that the government, instead of looking at the contents of the letter, and now that India and the whole world knows how badly prepared we are, instead of addressing that issue, it's a bit like saying rape ho gaya, murder ho gaya, but who spread the word? Why did the news go out? Cover it up. That's one issue. Secondly, I think I'm sure the journalists, hopefully they were responsible to weigh the consequences of exposing this kind of information. If they didn't, they should have. And my guess is that this kind of information, if it was leaked to a journalist, would definitely be in the hands of Pakistan, Russia, you name it, the CIA. So I don't think it would be breaking news to those people who we don't want this information to get to. The other point is that there is 4,000 crores that went unspent last year after the Prime Minister said that he would revamp the army. Now, if that 4,000 crores was not spent, we are entitled to know why it was not spent, because the Prime Minister had promised that he would revamp it. Secondly, if they're not going to spend it on arms that are supposed to maim and kill people, to protect us from being maimed and killed, then at least spend it on something more worthwhile like education and health.
Yeah, so but in the name of propriety, the propriety argument, there's a national security argument. Where will we draw the Lakshman Rekha, Mr. Doval? What's the Lakshman Rekha between...
No, the government, the journalists
okay.
cannot give their sources. That's my position. Journalists cannot give their stories. This is a sort of a lesson to every journalist that if you're going to do stories that make us uncomfortable, we're going to go after you. So I believe that journalists should not give their sources.
That's the whole issue, isn't it, Ashutosh? That an attempt is being made to put the fear of God in journalists, that it's not just national security. Tomorrow we are going to go after you on any story that may be uncomfortable to us.
See, Arnab, this is a rubbish argument given on the part of the government that the national security is compromised because of the leak of some confidential document in the public domain. Now, may I ask the question to the government and to my fellow panelists. The question is, today, the defense minister had a meeting with the 3 army chiefs. Why he had a meeting today? And what he has decided? He has decided that there will be accountability question during the delay of the procurement. If this letter has not been leaked, may I submit, has the government would have done this, something like this? Secondly, immediately after the leakage of the letter, there was an inquiry order. The same case was everybody knew in the government in 1986 onward. Why this corruption is now become so important that the government is deciding to go for a CBI inquiry? So my argument is very simple. Firstly, the reporter should not disclose his source, come what may. If he has to go or she has to go to the court or to the jail, should do that. Secondly, if this letter has not been leaked, the modernization of the army, the corruption in the army wouldn't have been in the public knowledge, in the public domain. And I think 121 crore people in this country who has a stake in the Indian democracy and also with the security apparatus has a right to know and is a stakeholder to know that what is happening with the Indian army, what is happening to the armed forces. How long we will behave like an ostrich? How long we will say that there's a national security threat? I think this is all rubbish, and government should wake up and should realize that this journalist had done a great service to the nation, and I think he should be saluted for that.
Who decides what is in national interest or not? Does a journalist today, let me put it to you, Mr. Verma, does a journalist have a right to determine subjectively what is national interest or not? Why assume that the journalist is not aware?
There is a fundamental difference between disclosing protected secret and having access to information through sources. So far as sources' identities are concerned, I think the journalists are quite right in wanting to say that that identity should be protected. But where the information relates to a protected information and where it involves violation of law in getting that information, then getting that information itself becomes a violation of law. So whosoever is involved in this, whether the individual who gives information, whether the individual who collects that information, they're all party to that violation of law, and there the law itself should take its own course. And if anybody is aggrieved by it, they can go to the court.
No, but the problem is that in India, the courts have generally tilted.
Which was held.
In India, sir, courts have generally tilted the balance in favor of what they see as public interest over journalistic privilege. It's an assumption that the journalist does not have public interest at heart. I mean, is this being fair in a country where the biggest corruption scams, the biggest injustices have been regularly exposed by the media? You know, let me get in General Jaswal. Do you think that argument of national interest has been taken too far?
Yeah, very much. First, I would like to share with you that empowerment of the media is a true test of a strong and relevant democracy. They are actually the gatekeepers, I would call, of and a very important instrument of sharing necessary. Now, the word necessary needs to be dilated upon. Information in the public domain. In this case, the national interest. I would say that the journalist has done an excellent job. The question comes up, how did he get access to a confidential letter? Now, this particular letter is in the domain of Indian Official Secret Act. I mean, you mean to say that such like protective, like what Mr. Verma had said, information can be accessed by anyone. You said about USA. Perfectly fine. In Russia also, they use the line, the capability, depending on the capability of the journalist, he can access information. Now, this is where self-censorship comes in. This journalist, if he did manage to get this letter, it should have been highlighted in a different manner, not in the public domain. I mean, Pakistan, China, they would be having a last laugh at us.